picture here, though. What was your takeaway from the speech? And
it was long. It was long. It was a very long speech with not much new. Quite a traditional, I would say, Republican, far-right speech.
What?
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. Guilbeault wasn't the only Liberal not invited to the prom. Pablo Rodriguez was also left standing outside, as the Liberals did not receive an invitation to observe the Conservative convention held this past weekend in Quebec City.
And like Guilbeault, Rodriguez decided to hold his own little press conference with similarly disastrous results. Before we get to that, help us keep this channel growing strong by hitting that like button to help push this out to more viewers, and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of our next episode. If you would like to support the channel, check out the description of this video for more details.
And before we get started, we wanted to announce that there will be a Northern Perspective After Dark live stream this coming Sunday, September 17th, but there will not be one the following Sunday, the 24th. We got our weekends mixed up, so make sure you don't miss us live this coming Sunday.
Now let's get into it.
What did you make of the speech? What did you make of the speech tonight in English, and why did you feel it was necessary to come out and speak about it?
Well, because they didn't invite me inside. Usually, traditionally, parties invite people from the other parties. We invited them last convention. They didn't come, so I'm forced to be outside. He's talking about freedom. Well, I'm not even free to get in there.
Did you feel it was necessary to come out as a Liberal minister and react to it?
We always do that in conventions. We always react. We always give our point of view. It's fair. It's within our Canadian democracy. Normally, they do that when they come to our conventions. They don't want to come to us. They should have invited us because we invited them. So
okay, the bigger picture here, though, what was your takeaway from the speech? And
it was long. It was long. It was a very long speech with not much new. Quite a traditional, I would say, Republican, far-right speech.
What?
Far right?
Far right.
Really? Okay.
These guys are far left, and they're pushing the narrative that right of center is far right.
This is asinine. Okay, so let's just talk about some of the far right things, everybody. Apparently, low-cost housing is far right. Apparently, low-cost gas is far right. Apparently, affordable, an affordable economy is far right. Apparently, free speech is far right. What is wrong with you? Like, this is it. They have nothing. They have nothing to attack Pierre on. So they're just now resorting to the last Hail Mary in the Liberal playbook, which is trying to demonize him as far right.
The problem is the Liberals have gone so far left that anything to the right of them is quote unquote far right.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Like, they're just off the rails left now.
Where he confirmed that he's going to cut, that we know that. He's going to cut a lot. We don't know where. Right? Is that going to be the seniors, dental care? We don't know. I would have hoped that he had the courage to say where he was going to cut. But at least we know that. He's going to cut, and we'll see.
He doesn't know where he's going to cut because he has to get in and see your atrocious budget and see exactly what's going on.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, they're trying to use these scare tactics to scare Canadians into thinking, well, you're going to lose all of this stuff now. He's going to cut everything. Okay, the first thing he said he's going to cut is your stupid housing budget, because all you're doing is giving millions and billions of dollars to accomplish a negative gain.
Yeah, it's going all to bureaucracy. It's not going to houses at all.
So that's one thing. Is he going to cut seniors? You don't know that.
He's going to defund the CBC. We know that. They got, what, $1.2 billion last year?
Right. So there's some money there. And then there's federal funding going to Global News, millions of dollars there. So that's coming back. Millions of dollars to CBC. That's coming back. Millions of dollars to the other media companies. That's all coming back. Like, that's where he's going to start. You better believe that's where he's going to start. And then he's going to turn around and say, all right, what's left? Like, if he makes some sort of deal with Jagmeet for a no confidence vote and say, I'll keep the dental if you vote for us, maybe that gets it over the finish line. And they can find enough money to fund that dental. Who knows? But This is what the Liberals are going to be doing now. It's going to be no longer look at our successes, because they have zero. So all they can do is point to all of the things that they're going to try and portray as the boogeyman on the Conservative side.
Minister, sorry, would you be able to tell us for the record what your blood alcohol content was when you crashed your BMW?
Come on.
Wow. That guy's got balls.
Come on. Guy, you're a federal member of parliament. You're a minister. Why can't you answer that question? Oh, right. It's because you refuse to blow. So for those of you that don't know, in a nutshell, back in April of 2016, I believe it was, Pablo Rodriguez was on his way back from Ottawa when he crashed his BMW into a parked car. Okay? And according to the Halifax Herald, I believe it was, Halifax Herald Gazette, they obtained the police report, and the police report stated, so this is the police officer that is actually documenting this, they smelled alcohol on Pablo Rodriguez's breath, and they asked him to blow. After asking him, hey, how many drinks did you have? And he said, oh, I had 2 small glasses of wine. Uh-huh. That's why we smell alcohol in your breath. So blow into the breathalyzer. And he was blowing, but not very hard. So the police officer said, okay, please try again. And he wasn't blowing enough to get a reading. Please try again. And he still wasn't cooperating. So the police officer finally said, all right, I've had enough. And he was charged with failure to obey a police officer. So off he went. And he was trying to portray himself as the victim, like, oh, it's not right, and I did everything properly, and blah, 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 blah. Uh-huh, sure you did. So he went to court. I spent a good amount of time on Sunday trying to find the court documents. Can't find them. Wonder why. I looked in the Quebec court system, not there. Looked in the Ontario court system, not there. And they'd be in provincial court because this is a provincial law that has been violated. But now they're missing. I can't find them.
What's worse than that is they made him transportation minister.
Right? Like, come on. How about come on to that, Pablo?
The former vice chair of the CRTC said that it's the CBC that's going to get the lion's share of any money given under the Online News Act. So how is that supporting independent media creators in Canada when it's just increasing an already very generous subsidy that the CBC gets from the government?
Excellent question. Excellent question. So they did an analysis, and they found that if Facebook and Google agreed to Bill C-18, where they'd have to enter into financial agreements with the media organizations in Canada, that the CBC would end up with somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% of the funding. Okay? And then everyone else would get the rest. So they're talking about supporting local news. Right.
But the thing about that 70% figure is there's no way to guarantee that it's even going to news. It might not be going to journalists. It might not be going to broadcasters. It could just be going to the executives. Nobody knows.
Right, because there's no mandate that it has to go to journalists. It'll just go to the CBC. So most of it will probably be eaten up by salaries by the top executives.
Well, we based our bill on what we saw in Australia, and we tweaked it, and I think we made it better. But if you look at Australia, proportionally, it's all the small media that got more than the rest.
But that's not what experts are saying in Canada will happen. They're saying CBC will get even more money of that.
Those are against the bill, but when you speak to the people in Australia, and we brought some of their experts here,
these are Canadian experts.
And they went to the committees, it's the same structure, and they went to the committees and they said proportionally all the small media got more.
Nice try, Pablo.
Even the senators said that the big media, including CBC especially, are going to be getting the lion's share of the money that could potentially be derived from that bill.
Right. And he's trying to say, well, you know, in Australia, the little guy's got to pay. Yeah, that's because that's how they structured their bill. But you guys changed it so that the CBC gets all the money. Why would that be? Oh, could it be because they're the state-funded media? They're your loudspeaker for the government?
Well, that's it. And it was either Senator Simon or Senator Wallin that had said it's a way for the government to fund the media companies without being directly involved.
Even Liberal MP Ken Hardy said that this is basically just a way to prop up a failed business model. So don't even try, Pablo, because everyone knows the deal here. And you trying to point to Australia and saying, oh, well, you know, that's what they did in Australia, so, you know, look over there. I don't think so.
As your poll numbers drop, will you be continuing to maintain strategy, or do you have planned to change the direction of government, seeing how dramatically your poll numbers have dropped in Quebec and across the country?
Well, we don't make decisions based on polls, right? Like, it's, as I was saying in French, it's my 8th election. I had black hair when I started this, and I've seen good polls, bad polls. You don't make your decisions based on that. And the real poll, as you know, is the election. And there's no election in the near time soon. The only people that won the elections are the Conservatives, Mr. Poilievre. But is there any Canadian, one single Canadian, that says, oh my God, this is a good idea today, with the needs in terms of housing, with the needs in terms of working for, you know, low-income Canadians, it's a good idea to go into election? I don't think there's any.
Are you kidding, Pablo?
Is this guy living under a rock?
Yes. Most Canadians are saying, yes, we want election. Why? Because you're doing a shit job. And you continue to do a shit job. You had your retreat how long ago? And you've announced nothing on housing? Great job. Yeah, so Canadians are tired of you, and they want to change.
And their own party's tired of them.
Absolutely. We just dropped a video where your own party, and this is like dozens of members. This isn't one or two. Dozens of Liberal MPs are talking to media. Some of them are even revealing who they are because they don't care.
Yeah, they've had enough. They're at the point where they just do not want this to continue in its present form.
Right. So Canadians know you're not listening to them. Your backbench Liberals know you're not listening to them. So everyone's had it. What do you expect to happen, you knob?
To recap, sir, what was your take on the speech, please? Just in English for the main English networks.
It was long, and which nothing new. He only confirmed that he's going to cut. It's going to be austerity, right? He wants to go back to a period where things didn't work. And he says that he's going to cut, confirms that he's going to cut, but he doesn't say where. So that makes a lot of people nervous.
Is that really your biggest concern?
Is it seniors? Is it dental care? What is he going to cut? What is it?
Are you not trying to scare Canadians by suggesting we don't know what it's going to be? Like, is that the biggest message you have to come out of this speech?
I don't need to scare Canadians. He can do it on his own. I don't need that.
Right, because
Wow.
Pierre's the one trying to scare Canadians. Give me a break. So I guess the other reporter didn't hear his previous answer, but I just find it interesting that he had nothing to say. Oh, it was long, and he's going to cut. Yeah, he has to cut. You know why? Because you're running a freaking $40 billion deficit. You're causing inflation. Of course he's going to cut.
Well, and in regards to the speech, you know, Cypher and I had said it the other day that there wasn't really anything that we hadn't heard before, but it was delivered in a different way. It was a lot more energetic. I think the people in the room maybe felt a lot more hopeful. It was endearing the way he was interacting with his children and the way that Anna had introduced him. It was an excellent speech. I don't care who you are. That was an excellent speech. I think we can all agree on that.
Right, and he wasn't just speaking to the people at the Conservative Convention, and he knew it, right? Because that's a speech that's going to be, you know, repeated over and over again. So, of course he was going to be speaking to all Canadians. And yeah, it was powerful, man. It was really powerful, especially the personal touches in there. When he was talking about the specific Canadians having such a hard time, the carpenter in the parking lot. I'm going to remember his comments about that 74-year-old trucker for a long, long time. Because I can't imagine what that man is going through and having to, you know, go to his daughter who has her family and he's going to have to ask to live in her basement. That's terrible.
Well, and we've seen firsthand in person that Pierre is a compassionate person. I mean, you can go back to our live stream where we discussed it, but before we got to meet him, there was a gentleman a few steps ahead of us who just started crying, and Pierre just gave him the biggest hug. I honestly can't see Justin Trudeau doing something like that.
Every time I think of that, like it just almost brings me to tears, because Pierre just, gave him a big bear hug and said, "It's okay. It's going to be okay." Like, to this, like, guy that looked like he was maybe 65, big burly guy, gray hair, mustache. It was shocking. Just because we didn't expect it, but it was such a touching moment as well. And you're just like, people don't know what to do because they're out of money and they're just looking for hope.
And Pierre's giving us that hope.
He's the only one doing it. The only one.
He listens. That's the thing. When we were at that rally in St. Catharines, he took his time with each and every single person. They weren't rushing people along. They weren't like, okay, well, you've taken your photo, get out of here. No, you got to spend time with him and tell him the things that were concerning you.
Yeah.
And ask the questions you wanted to ask.
And no doubt Trudeau would have his hand open and saying, "Oh, $10 per photo, please." Because he charges you $1,500 if you want to see him. So, there it is. But, here's Pablo, looking homeless, and, looking like he just got out of a DUI accident, actually. And the only one who's scaring Canadians are the Liberals. Because they are scared that they're continuing to do nothing for them.
And we're scared we're going to lose our homes.
Lose your homes, not be able to eat.
How can you feed your kids? Like, it costs us, for a family of 3, probably close to $1,000 a month for groceries. How
Right.
can you feed your kids?
How can you feed yourselves?
1 in 5 Canadians is skipping at least 1 meal per day because they can't afford it.
We're doing everything that we can to fight back. We know that all of you are. So keep having those conversations. Keep bringing the facts to anyone you know who voted Liberal. And if they need proof that there needs to be a change in government, ask them to look in their bank account.